Terrifier is a small-budget splatter film directed and written by Damien Leone. The film follows two girls who are out partying on Halloween night only to be stalked and tortured by Art the Clown. The film led to a sequel, which became one of the most unexpected hits in recent history. Howdy folks, welcome back to Garage Slasher-thon, where every day for the month of October we revisit a slasher movie. Today we're talking about Terrifier, and what's interesting about Terrifier to me is that I watched Terrifier 2 prior to watching Terrifier 1, which I'm sure is the case with most people. Terrifier 2, I remember when that movie came out, I go to film school. The film school teacher was talking about it. He was like, hey, did you know a movie was made for $250,000 and just made $10 million. That's actually incredible. That's something you do not see all that often. And it's especially weird given that this is a sequel. I feel like usually when a sequel comes out, people are like, I don't know what this is. I'm going to stay away. It was kind of the opposite with Terrifier 2. When Terrifier 1 came out, it was made for a budget of $35,000. And it grossed maybe I'd say $250,000 to $500,000. So it made money, but it was a modest hit. Then you go to make a movie that's $250,000 and all of a sudden it makes $10 million. That's crazy. And the other crazy thing too is that this is a very micro budget film series. When you compare it to other horror movies by Blumhouse or A24, this is definitely micro budget, but yet critics were all over this movie. Critics loved Terrifier 2 when it came out. It's actually quite amazing in a certain way that critics can be like, whoa, really? This unrated, micro budget horror gore fest is getting attention from big critics. Which is what kind of made me want to visit the first movie. I've never seen the first movie until this video I'm doing now. So this was my first time watching Terrifier. I saw Terrifier 2. My thoughts on Terrifier 2, it's okay. I didn't love it as much as most. I think my expectations were a little high. As far as the kills go, the kills in Terrifier 2 are fucking wild. More wild than the ones in Terrifier 1. And that doesn't mean there's not some wild kills in Terrifier 1. There definitely are. But I remember in Terrifier 2, he's just ripping the skin off of someone's back and pouring salt in it. It's like, okay, how crazy can we get here? I didn't know much about the production company up until when I googled it. They did the movie Turbo Kid, which I love Turbo Kid, and VHS 1 and 2. Which are, again, two great movies. So I guess they kind of deal with this shit. Is make it cheap, make it bloody, and make it fun. And that's all what it is at the end of the day. They're just fun movies. The production company, by the way, is called Epic. So yeah, it's like this movie is a true underdog story. It's the kind of thing that every film student or wannabe filmmaker can only dream of. This movie, when it first went into production, they tried creating an Indiegogo campaign, which didn't make its money, and then they went on to make it anyway. They made it money back, made a sequel with a slightly higher budget, and all of a sudden it becomes this huge hit, and now they're making Terrifier 3 and 4 already, which are going to be like a two-parter. Everyone's doing it now. The Mission Impossible franchise is doing it, so is Terrifier. So what makes this movie catch on? Why is it that there's so many of these kinds of movies laying around there and we don't know the name of most of them, but Terrifier clicked? And I think it's something to do for sure with, first of all, the extreme gore, which it outdoes any Saw movie, I can't even think of something as bloody as this in recent memory. It's definitely up there in like one of the most gory movies to come out in recent years. The movie, in order to get away with so much violence, their way of getting around it is just to not rate the movie. So they don't pass through the, I think they're called the MPAA, the company that gives it a PG-13 or an R. They're like, fuck it, we don't need them. We're just going to release it on our own. We don't need that rating system, which is interesting. They get to just bypass that. It's fun. But not only is it the gore is there, and we're going to talk more about which gory moments stick out in this movie. It's also the guy who does the performance of Art the Clown. Art the Clown can easily be alongside Freddy Krueger or a Jason Voorhees when it comes to iconic slashers. I see the Terrifier guy, Art the Clown, just fitting on that Mount Rushmore perfectly. And what makes Art the Clown an interesting character is one, you don't know anything about him. He's got this very iconic look, just the white face, a little bit of black, and then when he opens his mouth, it's blood red. And it's always like that. It's like he's constantly eating people. There's something kind of off about his look, but it's kind of what draws you to the performance. And then the performance itself, what makes Art the Clown such an interesting guy is that he's unpredictable. It's something I kind of longed for in the It remakes by Blumhouse, is that kind of sense of unpredictableness. When Art the Clown does something, he's gonna freeze and he's like, and you don't know if he's gonna pull out a bouquet of flowers from his coat or if he's just gonna kill the shit out of you. There's something kind of unpredictable about him. And at the end of the day, Art the Clown is probably the most predictable slasher we've talked about in this marathon so far. I can relate to this guy. You know, he's just a guy with a really fucked up sense of humor. You know, that's literally me. I'm just a guy with a fucked up sense of humor. When I do a joke, everyone looks at me funny. And that's kind of what this Art the Clown is going through. He's just a guy with a sense of humor that no one understands. Now, doesn't mean that I like his sense of humor. No. If someone tried to split me in half, I wouldn't find that funny. But to Art, it's hilarious. He just laughs at his own jokes. He's like Jimmy Fallon, man, just cracking up at his own jokes. I gotta respect Art the Clown's hustle here. But yeah, he's just an interesting character. I love seeing what he's gonna do next, what kind of facial expression he's gonna do, how is he gonna react to whatever gruesome shit he does. Is he gonna wink and smile? Is he gonna do something? He's a mime, and at the end of the day, he makes mimes funny. He's probably the funniest mime to ever come out in the last 50 years. There's even one scene that's really weird and kind of funny. Is he's pretending to be a woman, and when the woman goes looking for his sister, he's just disguised as the sister, and he's just like crouched, and then he like turns around. He like removed the scalp from the girl and then removed her breasts and put it on him. He's like doing drag but just by decapitating a woman. That whole scene is gonna sound far-fetched, but it brought me back to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. When Spider-Man goes in the burning building and turns out that it's not a kid, it's the Green Goblin. That was a freaky scene from my childhood, and it brought back some memories, let's just say that. Some of the kills that I like in this were the drag one, definitely sticks out in my head. And then there's another one that's just fucking horrific, is they're hanging a girl like upside down, like hanging from her feet. And they just split her in half, and he starts from the hoochie coochie all the way down to the head, and you're like, ah. They did the same thing in the movie Bone Tomahawk. Are these like particularly good movies? No, they follow a lot of horror cliches. One thing that definitely annoyed me about this movie is when a character knocks out Art the Clown, they don't double tap or they don't kill him. I would just like unload a firearm on him, but no one does that. They just like run away only to have him come back. It got a little annoying after a while, but I will say this. I watched Terrifier 2 prior to 1, and I think I prefer the first movie. It's a tight 90 minutes. I remember the second movie being like 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I remember thinking like, okay, I'm liking it, but this is way too long. And I feel like the fact that it had such a long runtime, it just made the movie look cheaper because they probably had to cut some corners due to the fact that they had additional shooting days. So I feel like this one felt more like, okay, I can buy the universe I'm in. It didn't feel as much like a micro-budget movie. It felt really well made. And at the end of the day, I think I preferred Art the Clown in this movie compared to the next one. I think he's just an interesting guy. I love Art the Clown. He's probably my favorite slasher in terms of like iconicness. He's iconic. Just give it some time. He's gonna be really iconic. They're working on a Terrifier 3 and 4, and my concern is that I read up on it and they said they're gonna go into Art's backstory. We don't need his backstory. He's just a fucked up mime. That's all you need. I know Terrifier 2 kind of tried to dive into that shit, but I don't know. We don't need to know anything about Art the Clown. He's a mysterious mime. For some reason, every time it's Halloween, even when he's dead, he comes back. Is he immortal? We don't know. Fuck it. Anyway, have you seen the first Terrifier? Have you seen the second Terrifier? Comment below, let me know, and I'll see you guys around. Take care.